Hi everyone, welcome to the Dynamic Color Picker tutorial series. So in this video, we are going to be designing the circular color picker entirely in blueprints. We will first add a circular color spectrum and then a couple of color blocks for color to white and color to black respectively. And we are going to have RGB and HSV sliders. And finally, we will implement the eyedropper widget that will help you pick the color from your viewport screen. So let's get started. We are going to create a widget blueprint. This is going to be our color spectrum widget. Let's drag the canvas panel first. And here from the color picker category, let's drag the color spectrum. You have already seen the different types of spectrum in the previous video. For this demonstration, I will be focusing on the circular spectrum only. Let's make this a variable and this will give us access to this onColorChanged event. Before we implement this, let's add the color spectrum in our main widget. Now let's change our selection dot brush to something more prominent. Yeah, this one looks perfect, so I will go by that. Alright, so now you can see with the mouse movement, the selection dot brush is also moving, but we have not implemented that color change event yet. We will do that later. Okay, so if you want to make this similar to Unreal's default color picker, you get to look into the reference which I am seeing right now. So in the right side of the color spectrum, you see a couple of color blocks. One is from the color to white and another one is from the color to black, and we are going to implement that now. So I will drag this color block widget. The two square textures that you see on the both side of the block are actually navigation handles, and we can also customize their appearances. I will use this texture for both the handles. You can set the start and end color of the color block from here. I will need another color block for the color to black. Now let's adjust the position and the size of these blocks. So the handles are working fine with the mouse control. Now the core part of the color picker functionality is going to be setting this color block values based on the current color of the color spectrum. Alright, so now we are going to implement the color changed event where by changing the color, I'm also going to change the color of these color blocks. So let's rename the color blocks first. We need to drag the color block variables here in the graph editor. So I have the color changed event for the color spectrum over here. For both these color blocks, the start color is only going to be changing and the end color will remain white for this and black for this. So I will call the function set start color for both of these widgets. Now for both these color blocks, we need to call the function build color block. This is going to refresh the color widget with the new color parameters. Yeah, you can see it is working, but the issue is I don't want to make this white when it is dragging towards white. In this case, it has to only take the extreme color nodes, not the ones in between. So we are going to implement that as well. So we need to update the handle for the color block CB color to white when the color from this color wheel is changing. And for that, we need to call the function update handle position from color. All right. And here we are going to pass this particular color. Now you can see the handle position is changing when I'm changing the color over here. Alright, so let's implement the RGB sliders now that will determine the final color output. So I will drag the vertical box. Let's create another widget blueprint for designing our custom color channel. So this will be a single horizontal box, and inside this will be a text and a spin box. So let me make this a variable. For the spin box, we are going to need two variables. One is the minimum value and another is going to be the maximum value. So by default this is 0 and by default this is 1. During construct, I will set its minimum value and maximum value. And now we need to create a custom event. This will have a float input. It is going to set its value. So over here I'm going to add the user widget that we just created. I also have to create a variable for the text. Let's bind it with this category. Alright. Now you have the category which is going to be pretty much like RGB. It is not showing over here, but it is appearing in the runtime, which is fine for me. And now we are going to set the other two channels. If you want, you can also add a alpha channel, but that is just for you to manually update the value and then set the final color out of this. So I am not going to be adding that. Now let's spend some time decorating the spin box. Yeah, this looks really great. Okay, so let me now set the functionality to update these values when the color in the color wheel is changing. Let's make this into variables and also rename this properly. Let's see if this works with the red channel first. So I will call this update value event. So I will use the input color value and I will break this into individual color channels also. Now I will do the same for the green and the blue channels as well. Alright, so this works perfectly. I also want to set the color changed when some initial color is being selected. So let's do that. I will drag this color spectrum and there is a function called select color. Let me set the initial value to be completely white. Yeah, the selection dot is exactly at the center now, and also the RGB channels have their values set as 1. So now I want to move this and this should be updated accordingly because this is working, but not the other way around. I have not implemented this yet. For this, I'm handling this on color changed event. When the color is changing, basically when I am updating the handle position manually, then also this is going to get called. So what I will do, I will not get the color from here directly. Instead, I will get the reference and I will get the handle position. Okay, this is going to give me the current handle position in terms of fractional value between 0 and 1. And I will also drag the color spectrum widget, but this time I will not call select color because I want this to move linearly from the current location to the location of the end color. I'm going to call the function update color from gradient. Here I need to provide the alpha of course and also the start and end color which I can get from here. This worked fine, and when I am moving this, yeah, this works perfectly. So now coming to the next part, when moving this is not supposed to trigger this one, so this one is left untouched, but it should multiply the current value of the handle position with the existing RGB channel. I will handle this event now. Again, get the handle position. So this is going to get multiplied, and this is going to get updated. So I will add a custom event update RGB channels. Okay, I will simply call that over here update RGB channels. Here I need to pass the current color as well. I don't have the information about the current color. I can get that. Can simply call get current color. So this is going to get multiplied by this. You just need to inverse the position. Next, we are going to implement the HSV sliders. I will just duplicate this. So here I am going to call our event update HSV channel. Yeah, so the slider values are correctly updated when I'm changing the color. Only the value component of the HSV is not updated with the color to black. So I will implement that by calling this function update value for our value channel when the color to black color change event is triggered. We also need to multiply the current color with the current value when we are updating both the RGB and HSV channel sliders. Now I'm going to add a couple of borders that will represent the old and new color value respectively. We are going to introduce two new variables of the type linear color. Each of them will hold the old color value and the new color value respectively, and this will be bound to the color of the corresponding border. So whenever we are changing the color of this color picker, the old value is going to hold the initial color and the new value is going to change with the change of color. Alright, so let's quickly add a couple of buttons for the OK and cancel functionalities. Now let us handle the on-clicked events for the respective buttons. We need to set the initial color as the old color value, and also initially that is going to be the new color, but the new color will keep on changing whenever a color change is happening. So here I am also going to set the new color when the RGB channels are set. Let's create an event dispatcher which will be triggered when a color is selected, this will be used to pass the color that is being changed to other blueprints as well. So when the OK button is clicked, we will pass the new color, and here we also need to set the initial color to the new color, and when we are pressing cancel, we will pass the initial color itself, which implies that the color has not been changed. The widget actually looks much bigger and spread out as compared to how the color picker should be. So we will spend some time now resizing the elements of the widget. For our RGB channel widget, we also need to create an event dispatcher that is going to pass the current value of the slider on value changed. Okay, so you can see the on value changed event visible here, and we are going to handle this for each of our sliders. When the value from the RGB channel sliders are changing, we can simply call the select color of the color spectrum widget and update the color value with the individual channel values from the RGB sliders. So let me add a new event. When either of the RGB sliders are changing, we are going to call the same event. Okay, it is working, but you can see there is a lot of lag going on. It is just when the sliders are changing, you're calling the select color of the color spectrum, which is triggering the on color changed event. And there I am also updating the RGB channel sliders, which in turn trigger the select color, and that goes up to infinite. So we are going to use a different function called update color over here that is going to solve this issue. And because this particular function also modifies the current color spectrum without triggering the on color changed event. Yeah, you can see now it is super performant and working in real time. We also want the color block as well as the HSV sliders to get updated. So we are going to reuse a block of code which is updating this color block, and for that I am going to make this part into a separate event that we can call whenever we want to update the color block. When the RGB sliders are updated, I can simply call this event to update the color block as well. So now we also need to update the value parameter. For that, let's convert the RGB color to HSV. When I am updating the color in the color spectrum, I don't want the value to get updated as well because color spectrum is not dependent on the value parameter. So let's convert this back to RGB, keeping the value to 1, and now I will pass this as color. Let's also update the HSV channel. The only thing which is not working over here is the handle position for the color to black. So let's update that now. Alright, so this is working perfectly. Now I don't want to set the new color node here. I want to set it in the on color changed. This block of nodes you see over here is giving me the final output color, and I may want to reuse that. So let's convert that into a single function that I can call multiple times. So this new color parameter will have this get final color instead. Now we are going to handle the HSV slider change events. I will just duplicate this and change the respective properties. Alright, so everything is working perfectly. I will now move on to creating an eyedropper button on this color picker so that we can also pick the colors from the current viewport. So now we are going to implement the eyedropper widget. I can customize the eyedropper brush. I will choose this image and add it over here. Let's set the size to content to true because you can set the button size from here as well. So on mouse click, my cursor gets replaced with the eyedropper brush and I can move this around, but the color picking functionality is not implemented yet. Let's make this a variable that gives me access to these events. So we are going to implement the on color changed event now. I will just add the color spectrum widget reference and I will call the function select color, and I will pass the color from the eyedropper widget to the color spectrum, and that is going to do the charm. Yeah, this works perfectly, except the handle position for the color to black block is not working. So we are going to implement that as well. So here I will add the functionality for updating the handle position of the color to black block, and I need to do a RGB to HSV conversion here and pass along the value factor to the color to black handle position. Yeah, this works. Both the handles are working perfectly now. This cursor offset parameter lets you add a custom offset between your actual mouse cursor and the eyedropper. And here you have the cancel key. This is the key that will cancel your color picking. Typically it is escape, but I have set this tab over here. Now let's implement on color picking started. Here we need to save our initial color before the color picking started, because if we want to cancel the color picking, we need to go back to this particular color itself. Next, I will implement the on color picking ended event. If you are cancelling the color picking, then if selected is going to be false. So I need to add a branch condition over here. If it is true, then we don't need to do anything because we are selecting the color of the color spectrum in real time on color changed event. So we only need to handle the false condition. Here we are passing the color before picking to the select color function of the color spectrum widget. Also, let's use the get final color over here instead, because that will also contain the value information. And we also need to set the color to black handle position when I'm cancelling the color picking. Okay, so the eyedropper functionality is now completely implemented. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial video. In the next video, we are going to explore how to dynamically change the color of the material applied on any mesh.